There are two men within you, one who desires greatness and one who desires comfort. And until you decide which one will govern the throne of your consciousness, you will live a divided life, torn between vision and hesitation, pulled back by emotions that were meant to be mastered, not obeyed. Consistency is not a matter of luck, nor of mood, nor of inspiration. It is the daily decision to act in defiance of weakness, to rise when the soul is weary, to push forward when no applause is given, to create progress when the world offers only noise. The man who waits for motivation will be ruled by distraction. The man who depends on emotion will be tossed like a leaf in the winds of circumstance. But the man who forces himself to be consistent, who trains his mind like a soldier, disciplines his emotion like a wild horse, and holds fast to his purpose like an anchor in the storm, that man becomes the architect of destiny. Understand this: every inconsistency in your life is a result of internal confusion. You begin projects, relationships, goals, habits, and abandon them not because they lacked value, but because your inner world lacked order. You let emotion override decision. You let fatigue override discipline. You let fear override vision. And every time you permitted your feeling to outweigh your focus, you silently voted for failure. No man ever rose to greatness by living in reaction. Success is reserved for those who respond, not for those who react. Reaction is animal. Response is divine. Reaction is involuntary. Response is chosen. And the bridge between the two is emotional detachment. To detach is not to become cold, it is to become clear. Detachment is the mastery of perspective. It is the refusal to drown in temporary feelings. It is the discipline of mind that says, though I feel chaos, I will act with order. Though I feel anger, I will speak with purpose. Though I feel fear, I will move with precision. You must learn to act beyond the emotional storm. The majority live in cycles of enthusiasm and fatigue, of inspiration and collapse, of temporary effort followed by permanent retreat. They are consistent only in their inconsistency. And the cause is not laziness, it is lack of mental training. Your mind, left to its own devices, will become your enemy. It will sabotage your focus, dramatize your failures, exaggerate your fears, and rationalize your weakness. The untrained mind does not seek truth, it seeks comfort. And success is never built in the arms of comfort. It is forged in the furnace of self-command. Let us define this word, self-command, for it is the very backbone of power. Self-command is the ability to direct yourself independent of mood, environment, or temptation. It is the power to say, I will, when every feeling screams, I can't. It is the authority to move in alignment with vision rather than emotion. Now understand this eternal law. What the mind consistently dwells upon, it becomes. If you permit yourself to dwell in complaint, you become resentment. If you dwell in fear, you become hesitation. But if you dwell in purpose, you become unstoppable. This is why consistency is sacred. It is not merely repetition, it is identity reinforcement. Each day you choose discipline, you sculpt yourself into a person who lives by principle, not pressure. Each time you act in alignment with your highest values, you solidify the character of greatness. But let me warn you, there will be no trumpet sound when you rise early to keep your commitments. There will be no crowd when you say no to indulgence. There will be no applause when you refuse to gossip, when you write the plan, when you read the page, when you sit in silence while others scream. Consistency is lonely. But loneliness is the cost of leadership. The world does not reward the emotional, it rewards the effective. The man who builds his life upon emotional reaction is like one who builds his house upon sand. Every mood becomes a storm. Every opinion becomes an earthquake. Every setback becomes a flood. But the man who roots his identity in purpose and anchors his actions in principle stands unmoved while lesser minds collapse. You must learn the sacred art of neutrality, what I call the law of mental neutrality. It is the law that governs all high performance, the capacity to remain calm while others panic, to remain precise while others scramble, to remain deliberate while others deteriorate. It is the calm mind that sees clearly. It is the clear mind that plans intelligently. It is the intelligent plan followed with consistency that creates inevitable success. And how do you train this calm? Not by waiting for it to appear. You train it. You train it through delayed gratification, through controlling your breathing when you're under stress, through practicing silence when you want to explode, through choosing stillness when the world pulls you toward distraction. Each time you resist the pull of impulse, you add one brick to the temple of your strength. Each time you say, "Not now, I have work to do," you place another stone upon the altar of your discipline. Each time you act from vision rather than validation, you separate yourself from the masses and step into the ranks of the rare. You must force yourself to be consistent, for consistency is the highest proof of desire. What you do daily reveals what you truly want. A man may speak of dreams with his mouth, but he declares his priorities with his calendar. What do you return to when no one is watching? That is your real commitment, not your intentions, not your fantasies, but your patterns. And if your patterns are chaotic, then your mind is undisciplined. And if your mind is undisciplined, your destiny will be dictated, not designed. But here's the good news. You can take it back. You can take your mind back from the chaos. You can take your emotions back from the grip of reaction. You can take your days back from the illusion of overwhelm. And you do it not by changing the world, but by changing yourself. You do it by deciding today, "I will no longer live in obedience to temporary feelings." You do it by declaring war on distraction. You do it by drawing a line in the sand between the old version of you who needed permission to act and the new version who moves with personal authority. Because make no mistake, success does not come to the most talented. It comes to the most consistent. It comes to the man who shows up, rain or shine. To the woman who builds, whether seen or unseen. To the individual who says, "It does not matter how I feel, it matters that I finish." The world has conditioned you to believe that feelings are sacred, but feelings are weather. And weather is not to be obeyed, it is to be prepared for. Build your inner world like a fortress. Train your emotions like a soldier. Discipline your thoughts like a surgeon. Be as hard on your mind as a general is on his army, because your mind will lead you either to freedom or to slavery. You are the commander of that army. Not your fear, not your fatigue, not your failure. You. So rise now, not tomorrow. Begin now, not when the timing feels right. Speak now, not when they approve. The moment of transformation is always now. And it begins with a simple, powerful, eternal decision. I will train my mind to obey me. Because when the mind obeys the will, mountains move. And once the mountain begins to move, once the first boulder of doubt rolls down the hill of resistance, you must not stop to celebrate. You must push harder. For in that moment, you are not just building progress, you are building identity. You are telling your subconscious, "This is who I am now." The man who forces himself to be consistent does not negotiate with weakness. He does not seek balance with his excuses. He does not consult the part of himself that desires comfort. He annihilates it. He exiles it. He replaces it with command. Because true success is not the result of half-hearted commitment, is the reward of absolute, unwavering mental dominion. Let the masses speak of finding themselves. You, instead, forge yourself. Let them wait for inspiration. You become the source of it. Let them follow their feelings. You follow your purpose. And what is purpose if not the flame that burns away the fog of emotional confusion? Purpose is not a hobby. It is not a passing interest. It is the definitive decision that every breath, every action, every moment will be aimed in one direction. And when you marry purpose with consistency, the world begins to reshape around your will. You must adopt what I call the iron mind standard. This is not a tactic. It is a way of being. It is the standard that says, if I said I would do it, I will do it. Regardless of mood, regardless of obstacle, regardless of whether anyone sees or applauds. The iron mind does not flinch in the face of resistance. It feeds on resistance. It uses difficulty as the weight that builds strength. It uses failure as the forge that tempers resilience. It uses delay not as discouragement, but as discipline. Now listen carefully. Discipline is the external expression of internal alignment. When your values, vision, and action are aligned, discipline is no longer suffering, it is satisfaction. It is the art of integrity in motion. And the only thing standing between you and that level of discipline is the decision to no longer tolerate your own inconsistency. Make this vow now. I will no longer permit emotion to dictate action. I will no longer permit comfort to steal my progress. I will no longer permit inconsistency to interrupt my destiny. Consistency is the oxygen of achievement. Without it, your goals suffocate, your potential starves, your future evaporates into the haze of distraction. But with it, you become inevitable. You become the kind of individual who is feared by mediocrity, who is immune to delay, who is unshaken by criticism. You become the man who outlasts every Oni not because you were the fastest, the loudest, or the most talented, but because you refused to stop. Remember this, talent is a gift, but consistency is a choice. And it is a choice you must make daily, not when you feel like it, but especially when you don't. That's when it counts. That's when character is forged in the silent moments, when no one is watching, when your emotions whisper, take it easy, and your higher self responds, keep going. Because in that moment, you are not merely working, you are waging war against the former version of yourself. And every act of consistency is a sword swung in that battle. Every disciplined hour is a fortress built. Every ignored distraction is a victory carved in stone. So the question is not, can you do it? The question is, will you command yourself to do it? Because you are not just building habits, you are building the self. And the self is either built by accident or by design. You must become the architect of your inner world. You must blueprint your behavior, engineer your emotions, draft the mental structures that will support the skyscraper of your potential. But to build this, you must first clear the land. That means removing the debris of old habits. That means demolishing the buildings of fear, tearing down the walls of self-doubt, excavating the foundations of false beliefs. And then, with quiet precision, you lay the first stone, consistency. And then another, discipline, and another, detachment, and another, self-respect. And brick by brick, repetition by repetition, decision by decision, you create something no man can take from you, mental sovereignty. This is what the weak never understand. They think success is luck. They think greatness is genetics. But they do not see the hours, the thousands of private, invisible, relentless hours of showing up when it hurts, of practicing without praise, of enduring without validation. That is the price. That is the path. And that is the power you now must claim. When you force yourself to be consistent, you reclaim authority over your own life. You no longer outsource your energy to mood. You no longer bow to circumstance. You no longer seek the approval of others to do what your destiny demands. This is the great secret of every truly successful person. They mastered their inner world first. They trained their emotions like soldiers. They disciplined their focus like surgeons. They treated the mind like a wild animal that must be tamed, not indulged. And now it is your turn. You must train yourself to remain calm when others panic, to keep building when others rest, to keep moving when your energy runs low, because the consistent man becomes immune to resistance. He is not distracted. He is not delayed. He does not entertain excuses. He simply executes. And in a world of chaos, a man who executes consistently becomes a force of nature. Do not misunderstand me, it is not easy, but it is simple. You must command yourself to rise before the sun, to honor your word, to focus when tempted, to build when tired. You must condition your subconscious mind to expect victory not through hope, but through habit. And the greatest habit of all, the golden thread that ties all champions together, is consistency. That is the habit you must now engrave into your being. So I ask you, what would happen if you kept your word to yourself for the next 90 days? What would happen if you stopped starting over? What would happen if you finished what you start, not once, but every time? You already know the answer. Your life would change. Your identity would shift. Your future would bend to your will. And the world, once a place of noise and distraction, would become your canvas knot, your cage. Now act as if it's already true, because it can be, it will be. If you force yourself to be consistent, you were not born for mediocrity. You were not born to be ruled by fleeting moods or enslaved by momentary impulses. You were born with the faculty of will, the divine ability to choose your direction, to impose order upon chaos, to say, I will, when every part of you wants to say, I can't. Consistency is not about perfection, it is about direction. It is not that you never falter, but that you always return. The disciplined mind may stumble, but it never stays down. It recalibrates, it refocuses, it re-engages, because it has made a sacred covenant with itself. No matter what, I continue. Now let me ask you plainly, have you honored that covenant? Have you treated your goals as sacred or as optional? Have you walked as if destiny is watching or as if tomorrow is guaranteed? Have you moved as if your legacy depends on what you do today, or as if there will always be another chance? The man who is serious about success does not entertain alternatives to progress. He is not a dabbler, he is not a wanderer, he is not a collector of motivational quotes, he is a builder. He shows up when he's tired, he studies when he's uninspired, he works when he's ignored. Because he knows one truth that separates the elite from the average: emotion is a servant, not a master. You must dethrone emotion from the seat of power in your life. You must replace it with principle. What does that mean? It means you don't act because you feel like it. You act because it is right. You don't train because you're motivated. You train because you promised yourself you would. You don't keep your word because it's convenient. You keep it because your integrity is not for sale. This is what separates those who talk from those who transform. Do not wait for permission. Do not ask for reassurance. You must author your momentum. You must manufacture your drive. You must become so obsessed with consistency that it becomes unnatural to stop. You must wake up each morning not hoping to be disciplined, but expecting it. You must no longer identify with who you were, but with who you are becoming. Because if you do not decide your identity, the world will decide it for you. And the world has no interest in your greatness. It will offer you comfort, distraction, entertainment, and noise. It will give you every opportunity to betray your potential. And if you do not have an internal governor, a fire burning inside you that says, I will go on, you will fall to the same average outcomes as the rest. But you are not the rest. You are one who knows the truth. You are one who understands that success is a war of attrition. The one who wins is not always the smartest, or the most connected, or the luckiest. The one who wins is the one who stays, who keeps moving, who keeps showing up, who keeps writing the pages when no one is reading, who keeps planting when no one is watching, who keeps walking when the world says, you're done. That is consistency. And you must now build your life on it. Build your morning on it. Build your business on it. Build your mindset on it. Because when you build upon consistency, you build on rock. Not sand, not emotion, not hope, but law. And this law is unbreakable. If you do the right things in the right way long enough, results are inevitable. I do not say this to inspire you. I say this to remind you, because you already know what you must do. What you lack is not knowledge, it is command. So command yourself, and do it daily. Command yourself to rise. Command yourself to write. Command yourself to build. Command yourself to train. Command yourself to follow through. Command yourself to finish. Because if you do not learn to command yourself, you will be commanded by everything else, your fears, your distractions, your environment, your past. And you cannot afford that. The price of inconsistency is your destiny. Let that sink in. Every time you break a promise to yourself, you cast a vote for the weaker you. Every time you delay the action, you deposit time into the account of regret. Every time you react instead of respond, you forfeit your authority. And if you do this long enough, you become a slave to your own mind. But if you reverse it, if you follow through even when tired, if you speak with clarity even when afraid, if you move with focus even in chaos, then slowly power returns. You take it back. And that's what this entire journey is about. It's not about pleasing the world. It's not about proving others wrong. It's about proving to yourself that you can be trusted, that you can become a man of action, that you can build a life rooted in command, not chaos. And how do you prove that? one consistent day at a time. Consistency does not lie. It is not opinion, it is not theory, it is proof. It is evidence of seriousness. You want to be taken seriously? Then be consistent. Not for a week, not when it feels good. Be consistent when it is cold, when you are tired, when your friends are on vacation, when your emotions tell you to stop, when no one believes in you. Especially then, because in those moments you are not just building success. You are building the self. And once that self is forged, nothing can stop you. Let us now speak of a universal levin that governs all growth, all power, all greatness. It is the law of psychological momentum. This law is as real as gravity, as permanent as time, and it states, every act of consistency builds power, every break in discipline surrenders it. This is not metaphor, this is mechanism. Your subconscious mind records every decision you make, and with each repetition, your identity hardens. Each time you choose discipline over indulgence, you tell your subconscious, I am the type of person who finishes what I start. And the more you reinforce that identity, the less effort it takes to maintain it. But beware, the opposite is just as true. Every time you delay, procrastinate, or excuse yourself from execution, your subconscious records that too. And it quietly molds you into the kind of person who stops when things get uncomfortable. The kind of person who starts strong and fades away. The kind of person who cannot be trusted with their own potential. So the question is no longer, will I succeed? The question is, who am I becoming with every decision I make? You are not simply acting, you are engraving, you are carving patterns into the structure of your mind. And those patterns are either making you strong or making you soft, making you sharp or making you dull, making you a commander or making you a victim. This is why consistency must never be treated as optional. Because it is not simply about progress, it is about permanence. You are either conditioning yourself to conquer or conditioning yourself to quit. There is no neutrality. You are either rising or rotting. Now listen to me clearly. There will come days when your emotions will scream louder than your principles. Days when your mind will present you with convincing arguments to justify quitting. And in those moments, you must not debate. You must decide. Emotion is a child. It must be parented, not partnered with. It must be heard but never obeyed. The mature mind thanks the emotion for its voice and then acts on vision. And what is vision? Vision is the ability to see beyond the present mood, to act from the future you desire, not the current impulse you feel. The man of vision walks by design, not default. He acts not because he feels good, but because he seeks greatness. He does not ask, what do I want now? He asks, what would the future version of me require me to do right now? That question is the key to elite transformation. You must begin to identify with your future self more than your current self. The current self is tired, the current self is afraid, the current self wants to be liked, to be validated, to be entertained. But the future self? The future self is wealthy, the future self is strong, the future self is calm under pressure. The future self lives with freedom, peace, confidence, and clarity. And that future self requires you to master consistency today. If you betray that version of you, you betray your destiny. And there is no betrayal greater than the one against your own potential. You must now become loyal to your future more than your feelings. You must become married to discipline, wedded to structure, bound to action. And you do this by becoming a machine of execution, not robotic, but relentless. Let others get excited for a few days and then disappear. Let others start with passion and end with excuses. But you finish. That is who you are now. And if you cannot yet feel it, act like it anyway. Because identity is not discovered. Identity is built, brick by brick, decision by decision, word by word, hour by hour. You don't wait to become, you decide. And then you honor that decision with consistency. If you only act when you feel confident, you'll never build confidence. If you only act when you feel inspired, you'll never become inspired. You must act your way into identity. Walk like the person who never misses. Talk like the person who always follows through. Move like the person who wins because they've already decided they won't stop. Consistency then becomes your secret weapon. It's quiet, it's invisible, but it is lethal. Consistency is how average men become extraordinary over time. Consistency is how silent men build empires in the dark. Consistency is how broken men rise from the ashes, piece by piece, until the world no longer remembers their wounds only, their will. And will is stronger than fate. Will is the inner flame that no storm can extinguish. Will is the divine gift we were all born with, but only a few choose to use. You must be one of those few. You must become mentally militant. Not cold, not cruel, but unyielding. You do not stop when you're tired. You stop when you're done. You do not quit when it's uncomfortable. You lean in. You do not seek permission. You give yourself orders. Because you were not born to be ruled by emotion. You were born to be governed by principle. And principle, when practiced long enough, becomes power. Power is not found in bursts. It is found in rhythm. It is not created in noise. It is revealed in silence. It is the consistent man, the calm man, the man who returns to his work day after day after day, regardless who, builds the kind of power that cannot be bought, cannot be faked, cannot be taken away. The world has grown loud. It celebrates the temporary. It idolizes the explosive. It cheers for the spectacle. But time does not reward spectacle, it rewards substance. And substance is born through repetition, through the unseen, through the steady. The steady man becomes the storm. He builds behind closed doors while others shout in public. He sharpens his thoughts while others waste theirs on opinions. He disciplines his tongue while others spill emotion into the wind. He walks when they run in circles. He finishes when they forget why they started. He is not obsessed with being seen. He is obsessed with becoming something worth seeing. And that becoming happens only through one sacred act: consistency. Write this on the walls of your mind. Every day I move toward my purpose is a day I build my power. Every time I show up when I don't feel like it, I double my strength. Every act of discipline is a deposit into the vault of my legacy. Because one day the world will ask, how did you do it? And you will not say, I was lucky. You will not say, I was motivated. You will not say, I had support. You will say, I did what needed to be done, even when I didn't feel like doing it. That is the only answer that has ever built anything worth keeping. Now hear me, because this is the voice of your higher self speaking now. You no longer need to wait for someone to believe in you. You no longer need perfect circumstances. You no longer need better emotions or better timing or better resources. You need to decide that you will not break your word to yourself anymore, that your actions will now align with your standards, that your time is no longer for sale to distraction, that your thoughts are no longer a playground for doubt, that your future will no longer be built by accident. And once that decision is made once, it is sealed in the furnace of repetition. Your life will begin to change quietly at first, internally, imperceptibly, until suddenly one day the results appear, the evidence becomes undeniable, and you wake up realizing that you are no longer becoming the man, you are the man. That is the reward of consistency. It transforms effort into essence. And when consistency becomes identity, success becomes inevitable. You will no longer have to force yourself to be consistent, because you will be consistency itself. You will rise when others rest. You will think when others react. You will move with precision while others hesitate. You will speak only what is useful. You will act only on what is essential. You will not chase. You will attract, because consistency sharpens you into magnetism. It refines you into integrity. It carves away everything false until only the truth remains, that you are unstoppable not because of what you do once, but because of what you never stop doing. You will become the rarest kind of person, one who does what they say, regardless of how they feel. That is the man the world cannot ignore. That is the woman whose power is unmistakable. That is the person whose name echoes long after they are gone and not, because they were loud, but because they were relentless. And now, as you stand in this final moment, I leave you with no fanfare, no fantasy, just truth. You have everything you need, right now, to begin. The mind, the will, the breath, the ability to choose. And if you choose consistency truly, deeply, daily, then you choose greatness. Not the kind that fades with trends, but the kind that carves itself into history. And if ever you feel weak, if ever you feel lost, if ever you are tempted to stop, repeat these words: I am not my feelings. I am my focus. I am not my fear. I am my follow through. I do not ask for ease. I ask for strength. I do not wait to feel like it. I move because I said I would. And I finish because I said I must. You are not stuck. You are not lacking. You are simply untrained. But now you know the way. And once you know, you are responsible. So rise now without permission. Move now without feeling like it. Finish now without needing the world to watch. And from this day forward, build your empire one sacred act at a time, brick by brick, breath by breath, word by word, decision by decision, until the day the world wonders how you did it. And you simply say, I forced myself to be consistent.